Okay, so I know it's kind of weird. I'm starting this video off in the dark. Of these days, I've been preferring low lighting. So I know some of you are probably just clicking on this out of sheer curiosity, and some of y'all might be in similar situations, but yes, you read the title right. I am 39 years old, and I've been married since 2005. So we'll be coming up on our 19th wedding anniversary this November. Me and my husband, and I just found out I am pregnant. I am 9 weeks pregnant tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, we were not planning on having any kids. I was completely okay with the idea of not having kids. He was okay with the idea of not having kids. This is a complete and utter surprise, and a shock as well. I was diagnosed with PCOS about 5 years ago, and you know, I was as devastating as a diagnosis of PCOS is. To be honest with you, I knew that I could conquer it, and I figured if anybody was going to not have the opportunity to have kids and not experience all of that entails, I figured I was the best candidate for it, because I never truly had that desire to have kids, or that want to have kids. So for my whole life, I thought, well, you know, this is fine. Especially after the PCOS diagnosis, I thought this was fine. If anybody in the world could cope with this and is going to be okay with this and is completely fine with not having kids ever, then it was me. And I was ready to sail off into the sunset. Me and my husband love to travel. We've designed our life around not having kids. I make this maybe to help other people, because while poking around on the internet myself, it was difficult to find people in my situation that were older in the second part of life and pregnant, find themselves pregnant, and maybe not necessarily wanting it, because I know some women at, you know, this age are desperately trying to have kids and maybe turning to surrogacy or FIV, things of that nature. But again, I didn't find a whole lot of women on the internet or stories like mine where it was not planned, it was not something that was in our long-term goals. And if I can help just one other person, or maybe be, you know, somebody that somebody needs to hear, because I know I needed that, or I still do actually. I would love to hear it if you're in my situation or something very similar. Yeah, so moving on, I want to talk about some of the symptoms I've been having and how we kind of found out and things of that nature. So I guess I'll start off with how I found out. I was planning a trip to see a good friend of mine in California, and it was a solo trip, so I went by myself. And during the trip, I was supposed to be starting my period, and during the trip, it went lovely, by the way. I noticed that my period didn't come, and I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm stressed. I'm traveling by myself. That's something I normally don't do. Maybe, you know, it's just due to the stress. It was only a couple days late, so I thought, gray area. So I got back home and a couple days passed and it still hadn't come. And my husband works in the ER, so he brought home a pregnancy test because I had told him what was going on, and we thought, well, let's just rule that out. And to be honest with you, at that time, it was laughable. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do that. So I put it off a couple more days thinking that it was kind of ridiculous. So after a couple days, I took it and I immediately handed it to my husband because I was like, listen, I gotta go brush my teeth. I gotta go do my face stuff for the night. Like, you wait with that. And he did. And then he came into the room and with the positive test and shocked the hell out of me. I quite literally fell on the ground. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. We had never gotten pregnant before. This was, as you can imagine, a complete and utter shock. After that next morning, I did not sleep well, by the way. The next morning we went out and grabbed one of the pregnancy tests from the store, one of those ones that has like the readout where it says pregnant, not pregnant. And I took that, and by this time I was very curious about the results, so I didn't hand it off to him. I waited patiently to find out what that one had to say, and it turned out it was pregnant as well. So I immediately called my my primary care doctor, and I made an appointment with her to get blood work done, and I did that. It turned out, yes, I was pregnant, and at the time I was about 7 weeks pregnant. And I went through a real bad time after that. After we found out, like, yes, for sure this is happening, I called my OBGYN and I made an appointment. But they didn't want to see me until I was at least 8 weeks. So something would come up on the ultrasound. But during that week of waiting, between the 7 and 8 week, I was not in a good headspace. I think that all the hormones started to kick in right at that time. And I'm glad that I found out that I was pregnant, or else I would have been real scared as to why I was feeling that way. Because boy, oh boy, did it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was so scared. I felt like I had done something wrong. I felt like my life was over. I had gone through this whole journey of losing weight, getting my PCOS under control, and all of a sudden I felt too sick and too sad to do any of the things that I normally did. Like, I would go out and run, I would do weight training, and all of a sudden I just did not feel like it. I lost complete interest in my day-to-day activities. I would cry all the time, and this was for a good week. I had no interest in doing anything that brought me joy. I fell into a really deep hole, and to be quite honest with you, I don't think I'm completely out of it, but I'm doing better. And that's why I'm making this video, because I just want to help other people. If anybody else is going through this, it is very dark, it is very scary, and coming to grips with kind of losing yourself and kind of surrendering to the hormones and just everything that comes along with it. It hit me hard, and like I said, I don't think I'm over it. I don't think I'm fully on the other side of it yet, but I've gotten a better grip of it, especially within these past like 3 days. I feel feel okay, because now getting into the symptoms portion of it kind of leans into it with what I was feeling at the time. All of a sudden, I got so nauseous, and they call it morning sickness, but it's all day sickness. They should just call it pregnancy sickness or pregnancy nausea, because I was sick all the time. And not only was I nauseous, I was hungry all the time, and I was on a pretty strict diet, and I had been enjoying doing that. I had been enjoying, you know, doing all the things that it comes along with diet and exercise. And all of a sudden, I felt all these bizarre hunger pains, like eating in a panic, or just feeling shaky and not feeling like myself, not feeling like I did but a week ago. And that was the most jarring part for me, is the drastic change within such a short amount of time. I felt like a completely different person. And that was a hard pill to swallow, and it still is. I felt helpless. I felt sad. I keep using past tense, but I think some of these things are still going on. But like I said, I'm learning to cope a little bit better. I had such a terrible time with the nausea. I had like shortness of breath and rapid heart rate. And during this time, the ultrasound appointment came up, and I was afraid that all of these very harsh symptoms that I was having was maybe an ectopic pregnancy. I thought, I'm older. What does this mean? Like, why am I feeling so bad so quickly, so different, so drastic? And, all these horrible thoughts come to mind, and that was one of them. So by the time I got to the ultrasound appointment, I was petrified. I was thinking, not only am I pregnant and scared, but holy crap, what if this is something life-threatening? What if this is something like an ectopic pregnancy? And so going into that ultrasound appointment was possibly one of the scariest things. I went in not knowing what to expect. I don't have any siblings. I don't have a lot of close friends. So I didn't really have anybody to talk to about this. My mom, she was pregnant with me almost 40 years ago. So, I can't expect her to remember, and that's fine. So we went to the ultrasound appointment and everything was fine. They did a full workup on me after the ultrasound, and they took my blood and all of that stuff. So everything came out fine. We will be going to genetic testing next, towards the end of next month. So that's kind of another benchmark that I have to get to, and hopefully you stick around for this journey. I plan on documenting the whole thing. Like I said, if I just help one other person, or I'm I guess a fellow traveler on this road for someone else that doesn't have a whole lot of people in their life either, that's great. And then that's what I want to do, because we need to be more vocal about this, about people, and not in their 20s, getting pregnant and it not necessarily being on their life bingo card. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be 9 weeks and we go to genetic testing. So like I said, if you want to stick around and find out what happens next, I'd really appreciate it. And if you know somebody that's going through anything similar or something of that nature, just pass along this video. Maybe you don't know what they're going through, and it can be difficult, and just hearing somebody in their shoes and their situation is can make a world of a difference. So, all right, well, stay tuned. Bye.